7:03 or something like that. Donna Kempton, Joan Burrow, Ed Phillips, and Craig Weinfuss. Do we have Catherine or Patrick?
Patrick said that he's going to join a little bit later, and Catherine had to go to a holiday event for her husband, so she won't be attending.
We can speak to her about that and have to cancel those events in the future. Because the you could have used the same excuse, Joan, couldn't you?
I could.
Christmas party is going on right now across the street at the Grange.
I know, yeah,
Monthly meeting.
yes. I told him this
They don't have to.
was more important.
Go ahead with the treasurer's report.
Okay, treasurer's report. Basically, all of our accounts are the same as they were last month. We have our 25,000 account.
Speak up a little, please.
$25,000 account from the town for emergency services and things that we needed for, and our $917 donation account, and our $1,000 account that we get yearly from the town. And they were all the same because they were last month.
So nobody else is spending our money.
No.
It's a good thing because we
It
haven't
is.
committed to anything in the last many months, so that's good.
Right.
All right, minutes from last month's meeting, anyone want to make a motion to approve them?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from last month's meeting. Second. Gentlemen.
Second. Any discussion about the minutes from last month? Corrections, changes, complaints? Hearing none. Vote is unanimous and minutes are approved. I will forward them to Janine for the public viewing. Okay. Ellen Arnold is with us tonight, graciously from her living room, dining room, kitchen.
Take your choice.
She's going to give us a report on the DCR issues about the interpretive plan for the CCC camp.
Okay.
So Ellen, why don't you take the floor and let us know what we're.
Sure. Thank you for asking me tonight to update you on, appreciate the support continuing. I have never, and I don't think you have, heard from the commissioner. However, there is quite a bit of action on it. I've been communicating with Matt Villamino, who's the district interpretive supervisor, and he has been working on it. I got just a couple sentences. I asked him to give me some, and then I'll get into more detail. But what he said is, Ellen, here's the current status of where we are on the long-range interpretive plan. We are finalizing the sub-themes and supporting stories, and we'll have that finished by early January. In late January or early February, we plan on reaching out for feedback. We are working out what that will look like, and I hope to have the details in early January. So at some point, feedback could be internal from the local staff, from the interpretive staff, to see what they can actually support out of the proposals. And it will also, at some point, include feedback from the public, which would include the commission and the Friends and any other stakeholders or people interested. And you asked me a question, Ed, at the first time, which I wasn't prepared to answer, but as we have done surveys at the park, and it was a total of 12 hours with 6 sessions of 2 hours each. And during that time, talking to the public and actually explaining to them what this was all about, basically it boils down to visitor experience and education. So we had 7 volunteers that helped us with, and 2 DCR staff. We did one in the morning early, and then we did one the day of the Blackstone Valley, I forget the name of the club, but their race, which is huge. there were cars parked everywhere, including the street. And that particular day, the race itself cut down a little bit on our visitors because they were just intimidated by where were they going to find a parking space, I think. I told you that. And then the rest were either noon or after, and we got pretty good participation. I believe we had something like 154. I should have gotten that number for sure. But out of that, I thought you might find it interesting that in that period of time, we collected 34 zip codes. And that compares to the one we did in 2007. In 10 hours, we had 38 zip codes. And, you know, we've built on that through the years. But I think that proves to DCR and to everyone else, the use and interest in Upton State Forest and having a place like that where you can go for outdoor recreation. The survey is online right now for Friends of Upton State Forest members only. I don't know if they'll expand that in the future, but in order to have a control over it right now, it has to be focused on members and people who have actually expressed an interest in the park by being a member. So I've been talking fairly regularly with Matt, supporting his work with research and bringing a lot of the knowledge that the Friends have with the park itself and the historic resources there. We also have interviews with people from several different periods, including CCC period, the Mass Wildlife period, I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on which periods, but we have several interviews that we were able to provide them for background. So let's see. I think basically, you know, that's a very quick overview of it. I myself am looking forward to at least seeing the first draft of it. We've discussed trail counters on the park, which I'm not sure that will actually contribute so much to the interpretive plan as to understanding the actual use of the forest. So we're going to be talking about that. And so if any of you have any questions about it, I'd be glad to answer them. And when I have more, I'd be glad to come another time to update you.
Gentleman that you were getting the information from, I didn't catch that.
His name is Matt Villamano. It's Villamaino, and he's the district interpretive supervisor.
Where's he stationed at?
Excuse me?
Where is he operate out of? Is he operate out of Boston?
I think he's out of the Worcester district office.
Okay.
That there's a visitors service center in Worcester, and I think he has an office there. But a lot of these people have an office, but many of the days are spent elsewhere on the road or places like Upton.
So is he doing what he's doing, do you think, because of the letter we wrote last summer?
He has started it several times, but always there's been other priorities that interfered and they pulled him off. But yes, the letter made a difference, I'm sure. We got a response, even though you didn't get a response directly, and we've never been told or confirmed that they got a letter. But just the fact that they jumped right on it, that his boss is involved, and the fact that he's gotten this far, I will be very encouraged once they get out to a public comment on a first draft. I don't think they would stop at that point.
That's outstanding. I mean, if indirectly the letter caused some motion to happen, it's great for all of us. So,
Alan, do you think that there's anything that we should do, like follow up, like we're encouraged and pleased to see that this is going forward and that, you know, the wheels are in motion?
If you feel that you'd like to, I don't think that would hurt. I'm just thinking in my head, if you directed it to the commissioner again and said that we're pleased, I wouldn't say, although we haven't heard from you, but I'd be tempted. But I would say that we're pleased that it appears that the interpretive plan is moving forward, that we're very grateful for that and look forward to its completion. It wouldn't hurt. maybe, yeah, and that might keep the momentum going. But he said he's got up to the sub-themes finished and supporting stories early January. So late January, I'm assuming that in that period that it will be there'll be staff review at different levels. So that would be up to you, your thoughts as to whether you feel. I mean, if I felt it was stalling, I would certainly ask you to send a query on the status.
Yeah, I think at this point, if there's momentum and we see on a monthly basis some continued momentum, just leave it as is.
Right, okay.
I'm not gonna thank him for doing something because he didn't even bother emailing us, sending us a letter or anything,
No.
but we can be thankful for this result, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and certainly when it's completed, usually, I'm not sure if it'll be the case on an interpretive plan, but to give you a broader picture, parks are supposed to be, the staff is supposed to operate with a resource management plan. And DCR was supposed to have all their parks done by 2008. They're still working on them. I don't think they've done half of them, but they have changed the way they do them, which is speeding it up a little. But having this done will be a component within the resource management plan. The cultural resources plan, that's also a component that was completed quite a while ago within the time limit given to them. And there are other pieces to RMP, which I'm not sure I'll see in my lifetime. One would include a forest management plan. But just the fact that we've got them this far, I make the point not only to them, but to you too. And they're fully aware of the economic impact of outdoor recreation and state parks in Massachusetts. It's more than $1 billion industry. And when you see this kind of interest from people coming to the park, and we didn't hit everybody, obviously. I mean, some people, not very many people said no, but and then there are trails where if they see us, they can bypass us. We tried to keep moving in closer into the trails, so we were catching more people. But I think that just the fact that making them aware and having it documented as to how much use there is, and I would like to see Upton too realize what an important asset it is to us, not just for the fact that we have the outdoor recreation, the open space, that many of us in town live not too far from these places, but there is an economic value to them. And I'm not sure quite how to quantify that locally, but it's just something people should consider.
All right, well, thank you very much, Ellen, for your presentation.
Okay.
Maybe
Thank
we
you.
should have it back in February or something, if you actually hear or see some more progress, so.
Sure, just let me know, or I can email Craig, if I hear anything. And
Yep.
Thanks again for your time. Take care. Have a nice meeting.
Merry Christmas.
I've got to figure out how to leave now. Oh, I see. Leave. Bye.
All right, discuss standing operating procedure to document historic properties before demolition. I talked to the president of the Norton Historical Society. Actually, the lady I worked with at the library, I didn't realize she was president of the Norton Historical Society. And I asked her if they have done anything in this nature, and she said, yeah, we do it ourselves. And I vaguely recall the form that Craig got from the state, form something or other. And it's not a bad idea. I mean, it's taking some pictures, it's filling the data in on the form, and the data, most of it's going to come from the accountants, the tax collector's office downstairs. Rather than finding a company somewhere that could come in and charge us $10,000 every time we want to document a house that might be up for demolition or massive renovation, we could document it ourselves. What do you think, Craig?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And I think we have been doing that up till now, more or less with that form. And I had uploaded the form onto the new box.com cloud storage for if we ever have to do this in the future. And I also uploaded the documents from the Savannah, Georgia Historical Commission to the cloud box. And in the event that we want to document a building more thoroughly, we might use that as an example. So it's there in the event that we need it in the future. But yeah, Ed, I think that's a great idea.
We can discuss it further at next month's meeting, but yeah, I was worried so much about the fact that Russ wasn't here on time to come. I had to try and find a company that specializes in doing documentation of historic buildings. Sit right on my right side here, Russ. So you're visible to the audience.
Okay.
So we were talking about the procedure to try and document a historic home, whether it's up for demolition or any other purpose, like continuing to document homes in Upton. And I spoke with the president of the Norton Historical Society, and she said, ourselves. And I said the form that Craig came up with from the state isn't an overly complex form. Maybe we ought to do it ourselves, even if we had found a photographer somewhere that we could pay to go in and take the pictures. We could fill out the form, maybe for a couple $100, we could document a home. That's all it would take. So we could probably explore that more in the coming months. Maybe we could even find a trial home to do, like 33 Milford Street, which already has numerous photos have been taken of it before the guy shut down his reconstruction and stuff. I skipped over the Heritage Park sign because I assume we have no update. BBT said they'd be working on it. We said if you get it by spring, we'd be delighted. Craig and I updated the here over last month, I believe, that we had a personal visit to BBT with the instructors. They had just started the sign and done some of the carving work, and it looked like they're going to do a fabulous job. So, and the structural foam that it's made out of is what I thought it was. It's a high tech plastic structural foam. It will last forever, and you can go hit it with a sledgehammer. Probably not going to break it. So
We could have some kind of an event when we put the new sign up to get people interested in the park, something like that.
So Joan suggested a committee of one herself.
I'll work on it while I'm in Florida.
There you go.
I'll do thinking.
After a couple of drinks. We need to shut off the phone. This is embarrassing. My wife's in Vegas. I've been talking to her since yesterday, so I decided right in the middle of meeting at the time that she's probably having a martini on the strip and she's gonna call me. Sorry about that.
Did she have a bank card with her?
So we come up with some sort of small celebration when the sign is rehung, maybe.
Yeah,
I bet we can explore that for January, February. All right, agenda item number, why don't we skip a couple here? Let's go down to, we go back to some of these smaller mundane stuff. And let's get to the gentleman sitting in front of us all by himself. He can bring company and bring us Dunkin' Donuts or anything, Dan. Holy Angels Church. I have an agenda item that Dan is going to discuss something about Holy Angels Church. So I'm going to let you jump in and tell us what you're here and what you're going to tell us.
Yeah, I just thank you for letting me come tonight. And this kind of came out of a discussion I had with Joan at the Lumen Girls event fair at and really kind of a follow-up for myself coming out of special town meeting this fall, where the EDC, former EDC members called the church a pig, and really kind of signaled that they didn't even want to paint it, maybe out of frustration or whatever. I've been in the architecture engineering community for 33 years. I've had the good fortune of working on some really cool historic projects, typically not small town ones. It's been more, I worked a lot for the Federal Park Service in the last 20 years and other federal agencies. Anyways, back to the visioning project in 2019. And then also in 2021, the EDC implementation report that CMRPC did for EDC has talked quite extensively about the Upton Center and both churches and town hall. And one of the things that's in one of the reports is the fact that as of 2017, the Tax Reduction Jobs Act drastically changed, not drastically, but made a pretty significant change to the federal tax credit for rehabilitation of historic buildings. It essentially has a tax credit now of 20% tax credit for a project all in for the building itself. And like any other site things that need to be done to it, like say, for example, there's a need to do some work in the site to protect it from the brook, the Center Brook behind it for flooding. If you had to spend money to do that, that's substantial. That would be covered in the tax credit in the site side of things. My big question, I guess, to the Historic Commission as a whole, I know that as was mentioned in special town meeting, there's money to do a study, $50,000 set of money to do a study on Holy Angels and try to see where it can go next and be done and redeveloped. So I guess I had a question to
Is that not the 50,000 that was raised to paint the building?
No, there's another study. Grant. We have a grant, to my understanding, the planner, you might want to follow up with the planner, but we have a grant to do a study of potentially reuse of the building. Craig, you're on EDC, you may be able to shed a little light on this. I guess
Yeah.
my bigger, one more second, Craig, I'll let you jump in. My bigger question is there's been a lot done on this, and there's a lot of dots out there, a lot of good information, and I don't feel like anybody's starting to connect the dots. But really, one of the center pieces of redevelopment is that old building, that old church, and going through an adaptive reuse, because it's unlikely it's ever going to be a church again. I shouldn't say never, but it's probably pretty unlikely. But many churches, if you look at what dozens of projects that have come out of the Boston Diocese reduction of parishes, there's been phenomenal adaptive use of churches that have had all kinds of homes, from community, commercial mixed use retail to high-end residential. So, so my question is this other study that Craig can talk about with EDC and the commission having more of a prominent role of helping guide the public discussion of that. I feel like EDC didn't have much, the previous EDCs didn't have a lot of discussion about the historic district and that building that's the center and probably one of the bigger challenges with the whole thing. So that's why I came before you tonight.
It's interesting because the impression that I've been given since I joined from our town manager and selectman is hands off. We will manage whatever happens to that building.
Okay. I mean, who's taking care of the NPS and the historic register? And look at this, it's a recognized district, right? The state recognized district, it's a national recognized district. The building's prominent in the Makers database.
That building's already in Makers database.
That's what I'm saying. It's prominent in Makers database. Makers database submission probably is what you use to get the federal district. I mean, I personally think that if you go to just take that building down or disregard the historic preservation aspects of it, that I think that you're taking one of the biggest assets out of the district. And being somebody who works in the field, around the field of preservation, I don't know, that's not good. That could, why would the Park Service say Upton should still have a district then? We can start taking down some of the most prominent structures.
I don't think there's anyone in this room that advocates taking that building.
Yeah, I don't either.
I can't speak for everyone.
Yeah.
I want to say that building. It's part of the structure of the core, the good core down there. The two churches, the town hall and the local Rostina.
Those are the foremost significant assets in the entire community. When you look at the Makers database and you look at what's been sent to the Park Service.
And the Grange and
the Grange too, but I would say those first four you named are the first four prominent. If you look at all the texts and all the submissions that have been done over the years, and what Corona Sim, the State Historic Preservation Officer, certified in 2014. So, I mean, to the federal government, those are the four most important
Did
buildings.
the EDC know about this 20% tax credit that would be available?
It's been dribbled throughout the Dotson. It was mentioned in the Dotson and Finker visioning study, which was done good. And it's also been talked about quite extensively. CMRPC talked about it quite more in detail in the 2021 EDC report they put together.
Now, when you talked to me originally, you said something about it probably would be worthwhile for us to pursue doing the legwork to get that in place before anybody even took over that building, hopefully. And so that they wouldn't have to be burdened with it or something to.
Yeah, well, I think anything to do, I mean, being in design and construction, tax credits are really valuable things. They cover a lot of, it's a lot of money at the end of the day. That's a sizable amount of working capital that can go back into a project to be realized. I think given the complexity of our downtown revisioning project, our downtown visioning project and trying to reimagine or revision the downtown, I think it's challenging because it's a mix of a lot of different things. You got a church that's really an adaptive reuse of a historic building that's mentioned in a historic district. It doesn't have full, it's not a registered building by any stretch, but it's easily fits into that very well. You're trying to do placemaking, so it's more than just about the building. It's how the building gets reused and it's how that building fits into what happens downtown. And I think the public discussion about like what stays and goes, I don't know, I think the Historic Commission plays a role in help facilitating the public conversation and the discourse about it. You know, I think I shared with you that being somebody who's been around historic buildings and seen how the process has worked in many different projects throughout my career, like I wouldn't see the Verstein building having much hope getting any kind of protection from the SHPO officer, the State Historic Preservation Officer in Massachusetts. But I do see the you know, just going out and pulling a demolition permit for Holy Angels would take notice. I mean, there'd be some filings that had to be done, and it'd be a whole different ballgame.
So do we know where the town is with what's going on with the church right now? I mean, do they have it on the market? Is it?
No.
No.
It's sitting vacant. It's sitting idle. An idle asset that, just like Christine's becoming an idle asset that costs us a lot of money to keep
In the last
in
conversation,
power. And
heard from the selectmen is they're gonna rework the bid that went out a year ago. That included that whole block and narrow it down and send it back out for, asking for possible proposals for what to do with just the church building itself.
yeah, I think they're talking about doing a study. So I did talk to Mike Antonellis, the planner, and he gave me an example of like what they're going to try to solicit for a study. Being in the industry, I definitely have said, you know, one of the things that EDC and the downtown group has faced is they haven't had enough visibility to the project. So nobody's taking notice. It's not getting out to the right people who do this kind of work. That's my first take on things. I can remember back in the original proposal that was put out in 2018 or 19 or so there's been two completely, you know, basically no response RFPs. So we're not in front of the right group of people to take interest. The next study, to my knowledge, and talking the brief discussion I had with Mike Antonellis, is this next study is trying to get somebody to actually come up with some ideas that would help you like the what's possible and what are the constraints and roadblocks.
So, back to the tax credit. To get that, what are the channels in the?
I think to get that, you're kind of going back and making sure the commission from a documentation standpoint and maybe doing some of the legwork for EDC or the study folks, like being engaged in that study that's going to be done. I think we didn't do one thing. I should stop talking and let Craig talk a little more about the study.
Right.
Yeah. Thanks, Dan. So Please forgive me. I have a little bit of a touch of a flu, so my voice is going to be a little raspy. But concerning Mike Antonellis, he has informed the EDC that he did in fact apply for the grant, but I don't know too much about it at this point. I think it's kind of still in the works, but we could definitely reach out to him and request additional information and kind of see where it is. I think it's still in the works, so I don't think it's an active thing that we can review at this point. But we could definitely reach out to him and ask him where we are as far as the progress is concerned. Um, so Mike Antonellis, the town planner, said that he's going to be posting the expression of interest, or the EOI, on the Upton Town website. So I'm not sure if this has been posted yet. I think during the last EDC meeting, he said that it would be posted. I looked after the meeting, but I didn't see it up there. But maybe he's posted it in the past week since that meeting occurred. So we could definitely take a look at that. I would say personally, as a member of the EDC, I've been strongly advocating um, for the preservation of the Holy Angels Church. We did have a vote for the EDC during EDC meeting to provide a favorable action for that recent vote at the special town meeting, and that actually passed unanimously by the current EDC board. And concerning the individual who had provided that comment at the last town meeting, he's actually no longer on the board. So that was kind of more of like his individual opinion as like an individual citizen. So I would say it doesn't reflect the opinions of the current EDC board, because everyone voted unanimously for that favorable action. So it seems like everyone's on board with it. I would say I'm probably the strongest advocate for it, but I think they are definitely in support of it. And I always have seen that the Holy Angels Church is a very strong asset to our town. I think it kind of provides a brand for our town. It's a very iconic building in the center, located very prominently in the center of the town. So I've been fighting maybe for like 15 years to preserve that building. I definitely do not want to see it torn down for sure, because I just think it's a huge asset to the town. However we preserve it, I'd like to see it preserved. I definitely don't want to see it torn down. And I've personally, not as a member of any boards, but I personally have been working with Linda Gay to put together a response for the EOI. We want to base it on this 19 Carter model up in Berlin, and we've been attending. They have a workshop every year, and we've been attending the workshop. And they have a book put together on how you can kind of use their model to kind of create and repurpose the abandoned buildings and churches and things like that. And last year there must have been 20 people who attended the workshop, and they had all successfully repurposed different buildings. So that was a very positive thing, and we're going to be attending that again this year. So at least have one response to the EOI. It's probably not great. We had in years past put out RFPs from the EDC, and we didn't get any responses. So to my knowledge, as of right now, we're probably the only people who are responding to the EOI. So, but who knows? That maybe we'll have a response. So that's pretty much all I know at this point. But yeah, I'm definitely Dan. If you want to talk about your ideas on how we might be able to preserve it, I'm definitely totally open to any ideas. I think we're probably going to have to be very flexible in how we go about figuring out a repurposing strategy for this. So yeah, we can definitely.
Craig,
Yes.
slow you down 3 miles an hour. One of the things that Dan said kind of struck a chord. Should we be going after getting that building listed in the National Historic Register?
I don't think you have to be listed in the register necessarily. I think you have to I apologize, Craig, I jumped.
Does that provide any security for us that would reduce the possibility of the building to be torn down if it was listed in the national list?
It's already one of the highest contributing buildings in a district. So it does mean something. When you start talking to the preservation people, like I've actually been digging through a few of my colleagues from around the country that know the national database fairly well. So they see the project, but they can't see that most of the records aren't digitized in the federal side. So that's why I've been starting to dig out here and starting to dig into Makers and stuff like that and things I've been full of. Yeah, being in the register itself makes it very hard to take it down. It's kind of like what everybody talks about, there's this building when you put it on the register, put the roof on it. When we did that on the register, the roof on it, putting that building on the register, that may be one of the steps that you want to do. I personally think that for the maximum flexibility, so you don't tie the hands of the town, is the concept I talked to Joan about was having historic commission do the legwork back with the SHPO, get all the ducks in the row of all the documentation that's been done over the years, including many studies, and to make sure there's understood lanes. Because if it does for some reason fail, you're going to go through a pretty exhaustive process to do a demolition delay and whole review. Because then I think there'd be a significant public discussion. We'd be refiling with the federal government about taking down something that, that could potentially have something to do with our district. I don't know. That's kind of one of those things. It's like,
So it's a catch-22.
catch-22. I think you want both ways.
Restrict what we can do.
Personally, I think that my knowledge of historic commissions and a few of my colleagues that serve on other commissions from the state, to your point, there's a lot of local influence. And I think most of the time when commissions work hard to try to make things move forward and get progress, as opposed to just, trying to lock things, freeze things in place, you tend to have a lot more success. And that goes to the flexibility side. But I think that it's a beautiful church. It is fundamental to our town center. It would drastically change the feel of the center of Upton.
And if they took that building down, they probably couldn't get permit to build anything there.
It would be challenging it's already a challenging site.
I mean, it reminds me of the, what was the building next to Grange Hall? The GAR.
Yeah, next door.
And you walk over there, you say, you see this picture of a great big building and you walk to the spot, you say, where could they have put this building?
Right.
Yeah.
All the angels would be the same thing, tear it down, you'd have this little piece of land.
You'd have a rut down there. Put down there. So I think the interesting thing is I talked to Joan, I wanted to do a little more homework before I showed up to talk to the commission. A fair amount of things are can be covered. I was surprised. The addition could not be covered. So like what you attach, say you attach a building to it, like with a connector to whatever gets built. Let's say then the arcade building gets rebuilt, taken down and rebuilt. That arcade building's actually on the register also. I mean, it's one of the contributing buildings, but I don't think when you look at how the preservation officer looks at the state, looks at what should be preserved and not preserved, buildings like the arcade and buildings like Christine are not going to survive.
If the arcade building was standing there, church got torn down.
Yeah.
You got that right. That would be actually that would be an epic thing. We would probably make the news in the historic commission, the historic community with something like that.
It's also a sad thing that there's no obvious, quick restoration of that building that could be done. And nobody wants to jump in and do it. That's the sad.
I think humbly put, and like I said, I think it's because the whole downtown is complicated. I've sat myself with the manager and I've talked at length at times with Mike Antonolis, the planner, as just like me, architect, engineer, had the privilege to work around some neat old projects in old buildings, including ones that were really hard. Like I've been involved in a few that were close to being tear downs, and it just took a lot of ideas and flexibility to figure out what would work.
Is the fact the town has finally stepped up to the plate and said, put some money up to, put a coat of paint on it. And next year we get a little, put a new roof on it. And if a contractor came and looked at it and said, well, geez, I don't have to touch the roof. I don't have to touch the outside of the building. The structure is sound. I just have to put something inside. If we go in and clean out the piles of insulation that have been rumored to be that we're not going to use, and did a few things like that. If the town spent a little bit of money to put it in a condition where a contractor could come in and say, yes, I can turn this into something.
So I'm one of the folks that Boulder EDC talked about, like, why I didn't get responses. I tried to sort of at the end, 11th hour, try to get that out in front of people that I know that work more in the development community. And the one thing I got back from a few people who I know took some time to make phone calls and ask developers or other people to take a look. Is it something you would respond to? Their response was, it's not clear what's really wanted there.
Yeah.
And it's also, there's a lot of pitfalls, and it's not clear how the pitfalls should be addressed. So I think this next study is an example of that, what Craig's talking about. This next study is an example of an opportunity. There's enough money that's being sought after to try to get some interest from some firms to do some conceptual design, not to give us another report to put in a drawer. We got like 5 of those already. We need somebody to synthesize the reports and really talk about what's possible and what are the different avenues or pathways. How much does it cost? What's the constraint? What's the big challenge?
For that. One of the things that had been suggested, I don't know, Craig, it was Craig's original idea or what, but I had spoken with Dennis over the DPW, that the money that was approved at the November special town meeting of 50 or 55, whatever it was, for the Holy Angels to paint the exterior, that this commission feels that the paint analysis must be done before it's painted to determine what the original colors of that building were. And then it should be painted to those original colors. So Dennis Westgate is aware of that comment. He said when time is right, they'll get back in touch with us. Because we're going through that right now with the Grange. I got paint chips at home that pulled off the Grange building last week that are going down to a company in Connecticut that specializes in doing that type of analysis to determine original colors. Craig had an additional idea that maybe we could get somebody to put some lights on the front of the building in some way similar maybe to the Milton Ristine, so it's light at night. I think that's a much
Backlight
The windows.
much tougher challenge because there's no electricity in that building.
Oh, there isn't.
It's turned off when the building was abandoned. So that would be a moderately expensive task, I believe. But we can raise the question with the DPW when they're ready to go forward with a bid for painting and whatnot. We'd like to see something like that done, so people drive by thinking it's an occupied building, it's serving some purpose, but it adds beauty to the downtown during the winter months, especially when it's dark early, there's some light over there.
That's an example. Like you mentioned the paint, that's an example I've been looking through. I have several of the commission's books or the historical society's books that have been written by town residents and have pretty well documented the church. I know that when I've been involved in projects and watching my architectural colleagues that do the preservation work and the research, a lot of times they struggle. You know, we'll have an important project. A lot of times they struggle with documentation and information. I feel like in Upton, between the things that happen, there's a lot of information about these buildings. I've been actually pleasantly surprised how many photos you can find.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of really interesting thing. So I think there's a lot of possibility. But, you know, I think the commission's going to have to try to lead some of that effort, because in order to do that legwork, it's really doing the legwork of making sure that that's one of the opportunities on the table to do an adaptive reuse, where really the project on the inside may be nothing to do with the church, but the complete preservation of the exterior, to your point, is what gives it its.
It would be part of our motivation for someone to come in saying, I've got structure, it's sound, and it's painted, and I have to do what I want to do. It's like the contractor that bought it, wanted to put some apartments in there, and he found out that everything had to have something done.
Yeah.
I don't think I planned in the first place, that's another story.
Yeah, I think at this point we've had people that have been, not looking at it anymore. I think we need to have some pretty serious people in the business look at this to see what's possible.
All right, Dave, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now back on the agenda. Two. I'm gonna propose we continue this item until next month, but it's, question was raised last month, should we resurrect the National Historic District warrant article again for the downtown district? But this time properly explain to the people, or do an educational campaign so the people know what their rights are and what they wouldn't be if we were to propose a National Historic District and let it pass the town meeting. That they could still basically do what they want to the house, but, so I think we need to understand that a little better ourselves, but. So I'm proposing we continue that till next month. Anyone opposed?
No.
No. All right, Craig had come up with the idea here and has implemented a file storage box online to help organize our documents and pass the documents to new members, etc. So he's created an email and a password and has created a site on box.com. I initially looked at it and had a little difficulty working it, but I haven't had time to go back and take another shot at it. So I'm going to try and do that over the next month. I don't know, is anyone here who's computer savvy? You know, so they're going to go online and try and so.
Probably not.
Other than maybe Patrick and Catherine and myself and Craig.
Right.
But I think the only comment I will make is that it has to be well organized. I uploaded all of my files, what I think was a reasonably organized format, to the site. Craig, have you had a chance to look at that?
I haven't looked at it since you had uploaded the files, but I had uploaded all of the, sorry, my voice is a little out of sync here. I had uploaded the Savannah, Georgia plans and also that form for documenting buildings before they're demolished. But that's the only stuff. Those are the only documents I've uploaded. I think that's wonderful for you to have uploaded the secretary's reports. That way we have a reference to them.
I tried to move the minutes, the meeting minutes that you had uploaded. I tried to move them into one of the folders, but I couldn't move the folder. It wouldn't let me. I couldn't move the file. It would not let me. And I don't know whether that's because you were the author of it or what.
Probably, yeah. It might be access permissions that we could tweak. We could definitely take a look at that. And if anybody wants to check it out, just reach out to me. Sorry, my voice is all messed up, but it's
We can discuss it further, maybe even demo it at a meeting next month. So
yeah, we could do that. That's a good idea.
Do you want to look at that site?
Yeah, I'd actually, Craig, if you want, I can send you an email and I'd be happy to assist with that over the break.
Great, cool. That'd be wonderful.
It's my concern is that it's in a very, very organized fashion. So if you want to go look at something regarding Holy Angels Church, it's in a box that says Holy Angels Church. Otherwise, I'm up at home over a very short time with dozens and dozens of files, and you try and find something, you can't find it. So I organized all mine into a box for the Grange, a box for this, and a box for that. It is very challenging with all the things that we will touch on and touched on in the past to keep that organized so someone in the future can go into it and actually find what they might be looking for. As Dan says, if we can go in and find a folder that has all the reports and analysis that's ever been done on Holy Angels, would be fantastic. So Patrick, you will hook up with Greg. You can send him the access and the password, etc. And we appreciate your insight next month, Patrick. What you see.
Will do.
Take another look at time, maybe next week. Has anyone checked the Historical Commission's mailbox downstairs? We have the monthly letter from friends from the Upton State Forest that we get every month, and the envelope that it came in. So, we need to do anything with that. I think it's a courtesy. They give us their letter every month. Pass it around to the people who want to read it.
I didn't check it this week.
You check it for spelling.
Did I check that for spelling?
All right, I think the last, or next to the last item on our agenda is the Grange building update. The painful process continues. Our architect finally finished. I haven't got final and all approval, but I think we do have it from the state that the bid spec document has been finished. It meets their approval. It's 100 and something pages long. All to put a roof on and to paint the building. It's incredible. Pages you can put in the document that, you know, tells the contractor how he must tie his shoes in the morning and.
You haven't even decided the color of the building.
Ken Paulson and I pushed him, I should say, last week. We went over and we pulled 2 paint chips off the building. We actually tried to cut a piece of a clapboard out. They want you to go underneath the paint into the wood and give them against the wood and the paint. So when they do their thing, they can actually see the layers that touch each other. Every time I tried to cut a piece of the clapboard out, the paint fell on the ground. So there isn't a spot of paint in that building that wants to stay there. It's all about really just, and I'm serious. Every 1/8 of an inch on the back of that building is a cracked piece of paint. If you look at it and touch it, it falls on the ground right down to the clapboard. So we've caught this building in not a day too late. So I got some chips. I don't know how successful we're gonna be, but it almost looks to me like that building was a yellowish color, unless that was a varnish layer or something that's on top of the wood. So it'll be interesting to see what it was. The Grange meeting went on an hour ago, and they were supposed to get me a contract approval with the company in Connecticut, John Cannon Company, and a check for $350, which is a 50% deposit. If I can get that tomorrow, I will be mailing the paint chips down in Connecticut to have them start the process of doing the analysis of 1 chip for the body of the building and 1 chip came off the building. See if we can determine, and I just fear that they're gonna come back saying 1 or both chips were unsuccessful, get us. And it's $325 for every chip. Too, so it could be rather expensive if we can't satisfy the state that it either can't be determined or we're gonna take a guess on which. So bid specs finished. The tentative plan is to go out to bid, I believe, January 17th. It's a 3-week bid process. It's gonna all be online on a site called Bid Docs, which I trust most of the large contractors are familiar with. The contract with the Grange and the Mass Historic Commission was sent to the Grange last Friday night. The preservation restriction was sent to the Grange last Friday night from the state. The Upton Grange took them to an executive meeting of the state Grange Sunday, and the state Grange has the 2 documents right now. We're waiting to hear back whether they're going to approve them or not approve them or what they're going to do. So they don't hold up the process of this whole thing moving forward. So it's been rather painful. Yeah, well, we got an email from the state Grange that was forwarded to the guy at the Mass Historic Commission, and it was basically an explanation of the legal standing of the town or the local Granges with the state. It's almost like they're one entity, although the local Grange can make their own decisions. Essence, an extension of the state Grange that has authority over them. So it's rather complex. Ken Paulson and I have gone over to the property 2 or 3 times in the last month. Last week, we took down about a dozen trees. We are going over there again tomorrow morning to take down a few more trees and continue to clear the site up. We are tentatively going to plan January, February, burning the piles of brush in the back to try and clean that site up. So I'm pushing the members of the Grange that you got to do more than just get your building painted. You got to clean the site up. You got to mow the lawn once in a while. You got to make it look nice. So.
Well, I did happen to drive past there today. And I was across the street in the parking lot by the police station. I looked across the street and I said, gee, that whole back area is all.
That's when we took all the trees.
Yeah, I was very impressed.
Yeah. We took one down the front wall. We're gonna take 2 more down tomorrow, I believe. And we took some down in the back left of the building as well. So I'm trying to clean it up and I'm also looking at possibility of pushing them to clean out the storage shed and the attic of all the
Yeah.
debris that's thrown there over the years and either burn it or get a dumpster and clean the building up. So that's ongoing. If anybody wants to help, we're gonna be there tomorrow morning, so.
Ed, did you raise the idea of possibly moving the parking to the back of the building with the Grange?
Yeah, I've got it in my minutes here. One of the proposals that I gave Ken a couple of weeks back was one of the original ideas that I had was in the monies that were going to be obtained from the CPC and the state was to do something with the outside, the view of the building from the street. So could we improve the parking lot? Could we plant some grass and some shrubs? Could we make it look nicer from the street? Because right now you pull in and the driveway goes up and over the hump in front of the building and back down. So one of the brilliant ideas I had about a month ago was what if we take the driveway around the back of the building and strip the front of the building and bring it home and plant grass so that you don't drive in front of the building. It potentially could simplify the handicap ramp. It could simplify parking and clean up the view of the building. That being said, it's going to take 15 or 20 or 25 or $30,000 to bring a contractor in to do something unless we can find a contractor that's willing to come in with a Bobcat and, gravel and a couple of loads of loom and do it for $5 or $6 grand. I mean, that's always possible, but I don't know the entanglements we'll have down the road with the state. So my take is we get through the bid in January, we find out how much these contractors are gonna want to do the basic work that we've planned, how much a handicap ramp is gonna cost, and if there is any money anywhere in the process, then after the work is done in June and the state has gone away, that we send them a letter saying this is what we're gonna do to the parking lot, comment or not, but we've got, 10 or 15,000 left from the CPC and we can do something like that. So I don't know, all of that's wishful thinking at this point. But I think that would drastically improve the view of that building from the street. If there was some grass right in front of the building and a couple of shrubs and nothing too exotic, and I'm never gonna pave it because there'll never be enough money to pave that place. So, yeah, so that's where we're at with that. Anything you want to say about social media world, Mr. Patrick?
Not really. I mean, really to report. Social media is social media. Unless everyone wants to start making a TikTok and you want to get some likes, want to learn some Generation Z logo, just say the word. I'm happy over the school break for us to get together, hashtags, be hip, folks and such.
Patrick, I just sense that all of that excitement a year ago has kind of faded and dulled just a little tiny bit.
I feel because my wife and I were expecting a baby girl in 2 months, and so it's not dulling. It's just more. I just feel old, and I feel I might have to retire. I might retire at the ripe old age of 36, and live my days out. I don't know, in downtown Upton, and hang out at the community center and make friends with all the seniors. And
Oh, come on, Patrick, I taught for 35 years. How long have you been there?
I worked back in computers back in the 1980s, and I know several people that retired at the age of 36, 37, 38, but they had stock options and were millionaires, and I don't sense that's hit you yet.
Yeah, I mean, maybe one day I'll be like George Bailey and It's a Wonderful Life, and I'll win. I'll I'll get that, that winter, I'll hit the, hot dog and life's good. And, that Frank Capra music is going to like jump in and,
All right, Ed is gonna make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Anything else anybody wants to add? Or are we good?
Did we have over your report at all, or did we use the report that you were?
Yes, good point, Joe. So I drafted a report of the historical commission that's intended for the town report. And I sent it to everyone a week ago, and not a soul commented on spelling error or.
I certainly considered.
I read it.
I didn't have a pencil, but.
No.
Did you put Patrick Roach? Is that?
I'm
Yeah.
sure I spelled Patrick's
Patrick's
name wrong.
name.
Patrick, how do you spell your last name?
Rosendale, Rosendale.
Oh, yeah, I knew
He
that.
was pronouncing it wrong. Yeah.
I knew that. I knew it was Patrick Rosendale, and I wrote Rosendale, Roach, so I'm sorry about that. But I sent you a copy of it, Patrick. You could have picked up on that.
Yes,
Yeah.
me and called on that.
All right, I will make the spelling checks, but nobody's got any other significant changes they want to make to the report. It's good to go the way it is.
Sounds good to me.
And next year at this time, Craig, you get to write it.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, I will make the spelling errors, which
Okay.
no issue with you picking me up on that, none whatsoever. All
Well, there
right.
were hardly spelling errors except for his name. It was just like typos.
Yeah, the typos. And I would forward it to Sandy, who I believe collects them. So, all in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
We have to do a roll call.
Meeting is adjourned as of 8:05.
That's good.